Hey there, welcome back to the Married People's Business Podcast. I'm Michael Tolbert.
And I'm Shalice Tolbert.
And we have a great episode for you today. And that episode is what?
Cross-examining love.
And how to expose a fake.
Yes.
Questions to expose a fake.
Yes, yes.
Right. People always ask us because during our daytime, we're not full-time podcasters. So we actually have a job because we got to make some money. Mama got to keep the lights and the bills paid. Daddy got to keep the lights and the bills paid. So in order for us to do that during the day, we practice law. We practice law at a law firm called Tolbert & Tolbert, and we have cross-examined literally over hundreds and hundreds of people. So we have been able to pick up tips and tendencies of people when they're lying, when they're not telling the truth, inconsistencies in stories, and all of those special set of skills, as my man said in the movie Taken, a particular set of skills has helped us be able to navigate some maybe pitfalls in relationships.
Yeah. And I think that what we do for a living can apply to relationships that people are in.
Right.
Whether it's, a new relationship or you've been in a relationship for a while, or even with just friends and any kind of relationship. What we do as lawyers, we evaluate people's conduct and the credibility of what they say and how they respond.
So yeah, that's right. So this episode is intended to help you expose fake people, hopefully before you get in a relationship with them.
Right.
But if you're already in that relationship with them, then exposing them during so that you can make a quick getaway and exit.
Right.
So we're going to get right to it.
What's
the first tip that we have learned as lawyers to expose fakes in our questioning of them?
Well, one of the things that we do, we ask open-ended questions. And with that, asking open-ended questions means, who, what, when, where, how, why. Those are the basic things we learned back in, sixth grade English when you're writing your little essays or whatever. So when you ask those type of questions, it makes a person explain.
And when you say open-ended questions for the audience, that is a question that does not solicit a yes or no response. An open-ended question forces the person to explain a narrative and to give descriptions in their answers. So an example of an example of a closed-ended question will be, isn't it true that you have on a red hoodie?
And the answer would either be yes or no.
Right. But if you want me to talk about my hoodie and the color, you would say, tell me a little bit about your hoodie. Where did you get your hoodie? Why did you buy your hoodie? And that will require that I explain my clothes and give you a little bit more. And the more people talk, lawyers are masters at getting people to talk, because the more you talk, the more you're going to reveal your true motives behind whatever you're asking about, whether it's a hoodie, whether it's a relationship, whether it's kids or any of your hobbies. When you're going on these first dates with men or women, you want them to talk as much as possible so that you can find out as much as you can about them.
Yeah. So, an example, actually in a relationship, hey, instead of saying, are you family oriented? The person can say yes or no. Ask them, tell me about your relationship with your family. How often are you spending time with your family? What do you think of your parents or your siblings or something like that? Those are all who, what, when, where, how, why questions. So let's move on to the next.
So do you have a baby mama?
That's a yes or no
yes
question.
That's not what you want to ask, ladies. No. You want to ask what?
How many baby mamas you got?
Yeah, that might get you there. No, so, I think the better question would be, what are your opinions about baby mamas?
So, what do you think about having children?
Okay.
And that will give you whether you have someone that you're not committed to anymore, that you're co-parenting with. All of that comes out when you say, what do you think about children?
Okay. I like that. Good tip. Okay. So the next area of questions that lawyers love to use and that you can use in your relationship, whether it be preemptively or during, is lawyers ask questions about consistency. Lawyers are masters at trying to tease out a story and figuring out the inconsistencies in that stories. and relationships are the same.
Right.
So you want to scour the earth, men and women, for any inconsistency or consistency that person shows when you're questioning them on a first date or if you're in a relationship.
Yeah, I think that, this is where it's the early stages. So you go on that first date and somebody says, hey, I love traveling. But then, you get 2 months in and that person's like, yeah, I never leave the city because, blah, blah, blah. You keep those things in the back of your mind. You got that digital folder in your mind as to what you've been discussing. And you're like, okay, well, on the first day, he said he loved traveling. Now he said he don't leave the city, so that's inconsistent.
Yeah, that's one. And another one would be, for the dude that man, I don't really kick it a lot. I don't have a lot of friends. And then, then every time y'all go out, it's like, hey, Mr. Michael, how you doing?
Mr. Michael.
Mr. Michael, you bumping everywhere you go, you bumping into somebody that know him. And it's always his sister, his play sister.
His cousin,
or her brother. What's that?
That's my girl.
Who is that? Oh, that's my girl, my cousin. When you had those situations, if you had that inconsistency in how they describe who they're with and their relationships with people, those are probably red flags that you want to be careful about. So spot inconsistencies, track inconsistencies in the story that they have. And that will tell you a lot about that person.
Right. It doesn't always mean that they're lying, but I think it prompts you to do some follow-up.
Yeah.
Asking them questions that follows up on whatever that subject is. So it just allows you to estimate and look at their credibility, their integrity.
I would agree with that. And the next area of questions that lawyers use that you can use too, audience, is lawyers are key at asking for examples. We just do not take you for face value. So if you say, you know what, I love going to church. Me and love, that's one of the first lies we tell when we trying to get a girl. We be like, I'm a God-fearing man. I'm a Christian man. And then the next question would be what
church do you go to?
Hamina.
Right.
I go to the Church of America. I go to the university.
The Church of America.
I go to the university,
So. Well, then with this, to me, it's when you're talking about giving examples, I think of, when people talk about certain characteristics. So for instance, I'm always going to be loyal to you. Well, how do you show me that you're loyal? Give me an example of how you've been loyal to somebody.
I agree. And, women, this is for the ladies out there. I'm giving free game. So that man tell you he God-fearing. And then you say, give me an example of what was the last thing you did. What was the last book of the Bible you read? What is the first book of the Bible? And that man, he can't tell you the first book of the Bible. The first book of the Bible, Genesis. He can't tell you that. That's what you look for. Not only is that an example, but that's also an inconsistency too, because his conduct and his words are not matching up.
Right. And as Michael Tolbert likes to say, those just words. I need to see some action.
Oh,
you
listening to me.
So
I'm all about the action. I'm all about the action.
Takes me into the next area. Examine conduct, not conclusions. How somebody behaves. Look at how they are when they talking to you. Are they giving you eye contact? If they say I'm a good person and y'all out to dinner, how are they treating the server, the hostess, the people that are serving you in the restaurant? How are they acting towards them? How are they acting about people around them? Sometimes restaurants are tight. So I think that's a really good setting to observe somebody's conduct.
I would agree with that. And I think lawyers are key at this. We're masters. We watch everything. We have a very discriminate eye. Especially trial lawyers, which is what we do. We have to size up a witness. We have to size up a jury.
Yep.
And those skills can be used by you too.
Yep.
When you're sizing up that mate, that future mate, or that future boyfriend, or that future girlfriend, or if the guy tells you that, hey, I was out with the fellas,
I don't know where this is going, but go ahead.
Yeah, man, the guy, I don't do this stuff. I'm just
you don't go out
right now. there you go. I don't go out, so my conduct matches my words. But situations God tell you, yeah, I was out with the fellas. Ladies, the first thing you want to do when that man tells you that he was just out with the fellas, he's been gone for 12 hours and he come back smelling like Irish Spring.
How old are you? Irish Spring?
He come back smelling like Irish Spring soap. Then you need to ask yourself, what is this conduct showing? That he left out smelling like one way and then come back smelling another way, or his eyes. Ladies, you want to look at the eyes. You want to look at the eyes. And even for fellas, you want to look at the eyes. Is she shifty-eyed? Is she looking you in your eyes when she's talking to you? Or is she kind of gazing away? What is her body language doing when you're talking to her? Is she uncomfortable when you're asking her certain questions? These are all things that lawyers look at to size up people and witnesses to see if they're telling the truth or if they're not. So you want to do the same thing to these people. You don't want a shifty-eyed dude or lady for the men. And I tell you the one thing that for me as a man, the one thing that really gets under my skin, and this is not trying to be in a relationship with a dude, but just whether the guy is solid. I shake his hand. Does he have a good, nice, firm handshake? So all of those things can lead you to whether or not that person is solid or not.
Well, just me, one more thing I want to say about conduct, and we can move on to the next one, because you can go a little bit more below the surface and ask them, or look at how they handle certain things. Like I was talking about the restaurant. How do they handle disappointment? How do they handle new things that happen to them, meeting goals? So looking at that conduct and how they behave will give you an indication on what type of person they are as well.
Real talk. So the next thing that you can look for, the tips that we as lawyers for over 20, you got 50 years of over 50 years of law experience here at this podcast. I
don't like the way that sounds, but go ahead.
Man, that does make us sound old, yeah. But it's true. We've been in the game a long time. The things that we look at when we're trying to decide whether somebody is a fake or not telling the truth are questions or answers of evasion. So is the person evading answering the direct question that has been put before them? So evasiveness is a key critical factor to determine whether or not somebody is a fake or whether or not they're not being honest or truthful with you. You want to expound on that?
Yes, I got a real good one.
Okay, so, what's your example? Go ahead.
Hey man, what happened with your last relationship? Man, she was crazy.
That
don't tell me nothing.
That ain't evasive. That could be true.
That don't tell me nothing.
Okay, she was crazy.
That's evasive. Why did your last relationship? Okay. Why did your last relationship end? Well, you know what? We were going on different paths. I was trying to do this. She was doing that, without getting into the specifics. But to just say somebody was crazy, to me, that says that you're not taking responsibility for any part that you may have played as well. And that doesn't always mean that it's a negative role that you've played. But, at the same time, she was crazy is just not answering the question, in my opinion. Because then I'd be like, how was she crazy?
I agree. I remember I was dating this one chick way before you. This is way before you. You don't care? Oh, okay. All right. So I was dating this one chick, and I always want to know what the past relationship was like.
Why?
Because that's a testament. That's a dry run. Like if you had a million relationships that have failed, I kind of want to know why. I want to know what the breaking point is.
Exactly.
This chick would never answer the question. And fellas, I'm gonna give you an example. I'm gonna give you a cheat code. If you ask that lady, hey, tell me, tell me about your last relationship, your last boyfriend. And if she says, I wish him nothing but the best, first of all, when women say they wish him nothing but the best, they don't wish him nothing but the best. They don't mean that. Most women don't mean that when they say they wish that man nothing but the best. So that's evasiveness, because you haven't answered my question. I said, tell me, again, the first tip, open-ended questions. Tell me about your last relationship. Tell me about your last boyfriend. We're at the age group where we have divorcees, people who have been divorced. So you kind of want to know, if they're over the person. if they're over the divorce,
Yeah.
because some people are not over their divorces. So I need to know, like, tell me about your ex. Tell me about that last relationship you had.
Yeah.
If they say I wish him nothing but the best, that's an evasive answer that doesn't necessarily tell me what I want to know about whether you are truly over that person.
Right. So I think the next thing then is talking about conflict, asking that person about conflict. I would say that's the next area.
That's a good area. Yeah, because
Yeah.
lawyers we want to know how people handle conflict and
Right.
pressure.
Exactly.
You know.
What did you learn from it? Are you going to make those same mistakes? Because you got to take some lessons from whatever that situation is, good or bad. So how do you carry that over into your life now? If you had to do it over again, how would you do it over? So I think that is how you ask someone about conflict that they've had in their lives, whether it's conflict in a relationship, whether it's conflict in their family, on the job, anything, just how they handle it.
No, I think that's a really good thing, because you don't really know this is for the ladies out there. You don't really know the character of a man until you see how that man handles disappointment, how he handles loss, how he handles setback. Because having a family and being a husband is all about being able to persevere through challenges, through trouble, and you don't want no weenie man.
And
You don't want no weenie man that
I
has
was just about
has
to
never
say
been in the
that.
fire, has never been in the fire. So you need somebody that's, as Cat Williams would say, has he been tested?
I was just about to say
Has he
that
been
about
tested? So you want a man that's been tested,
right,
and handle conflict.
and I think to a certain degree, it lets you know the level of maturity that they have.
I agree. I agree
So
with that.
that goes along with what you said about have they been tested?
Exactly.
Are they weak? Are they strong? Are they going to stand up for you? Are they going to respect your opinion if you guys have a strong disagreement?
Yeah.
How do they handle that you have a different opinion from them in a disagreement?
Agree 100%. So the next thing that lawyers do is, we are all about the character witness. Lawyers look for corroborating evidence and testimony and witnesses to show whether or not that person, you can show inconsistencies, not necessarily with the words of the actual person, but with the words of someone else.
Yep.
So we always look to corroborate whether or not that witness's story is true, either through them directly, which we talked about earlier, or through another witness. So, I was talking to this one young lady, and she said something that I thought was, at first I thought it was extreme, but then once I thought about it, I was like, man, I guess that's pretty good. But she says that when she goes out on dates with guys, she asks for three references.
Like an interview?
Yeah, like a job interview. She asks for 3 references, and she wants to know who would vouch for them, and she talks to those people. And I heard this comedian say this, and I don't know if it was true, but she said if the person is divorced, she want to talk to the ex-wife. Have you heard that?
I have not heard that, but I don't know that I would always do that, but
Yeah, I think that's a little extreme, but I get the point. The point is, you want to know, where does this person come from? And for me, because we are so rooted in, we grew up together, we came from the same place, so we have a lot of friends that are mutual friends that are in common. So we kind of know where we come from.
Right.
But a lot of you might not have that story, so you might have to dig a little bit. And I can tell you the red flags that you want a dude that don't have character witnesses. I know a lot of guys that it's like their lives started at 40. So they, they show up, guys show up to the wedding, and you don't see no old childhood friends. You don't see like that's weird to me, that a guy doesn't have a childhood friend that knew him when he was like P.P. Johnson.
Or they play cousin or the cousins, family members. Yeah, so I get what you're saying.
This person his friends shouldn't start at 40. Like, you shouldn't have, does he have old friends? Does she have old friends?
Yeah.
You need people that can vouch for the person, right?
One thing that you do when we're interviewing people, which I think can carry over to whether we're cross-examining somebody or in your relationships, you ask that question, if I talk to 3 of your closest friends, what would they say your biggest weakness is? What would they say your strengths are? And I think that to make somebody think about that about themselves or what their friends would say reveals a lot about that person.
Character is extremely important, and a lot of times that character can be shown not only from the person's conduct, but by the person who the person hangs around with.
Yep.
So you could get a lot of information about the character of a man or of a woman by who she hangs with. That's why it's extremely important, ladies and gentlemen, that birds of a feather flock together. My father used to always say water seeks its own level. So who you hang around with and who speaks on your behalf tells me and tells the world a lot about who you are. So character witnesses are extremely, extremely important. And you should ask those questions about who are your 3 closest friends? Like, who are those people? And that'll tell you a lot about who that person is. If that person's closest friend, he been knowing them for a year, like, to me, that is a red flag. And you should probably look into that a little bit more.
So I think that makes me think about the next area that you should be looking at, when somebody is just overly polished, they telling you everything is right about them. So you go from the character witness and they're like, oh yeah, they're going to say, I'm the best at this, I'm the best at that, blah, blah, blah. Look at how they deliver that information. Listen, pay attention to their body language. Are they ever admitting mistakes? They the best at everything, best I ever had,
Yeah.
That's something that you have to be aware of as well. And so that's where the body language comes into play. That's where, you got to go back to that one earlier. Are they consistent with what they said?
Right. No, I think where you're really getting at on that point, which is what we always say in the business, is that no case is perfect. Every case has flaws. Every case has warts. And if it's too good to be true, fellas, if you see that woman is pow,
I was about to say, it's some,
when she got that comma is what we call it. That pow.
That's a comma. You call it a comma?
A pow. You got the pow. You got the pow.
What in the
that
noise?
Yeah,
that's not It's a question mark when the thighs don't match.
Question mark. Okay, so fellas, she got that
question mark and the thighs don't match.
She got everything going on. She looks good.
Look for the matching thighs.
She has everything going for her, but you like, okay, she can't keep a guy. Why can't she keep a guy?
Well,
so like sometimes things can look too good to be true. So if something looks too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true. So you need to really dig into that. No one is perfect. Everyone is flawed. God didn't make a perfect being. The only person that's perfect was Jesus Christ. So we all fall short. So if you see somebody that has never made a mistake, has never failed at anything, and when you talk to them about past relationships, it's always somebody else's fault, then you probably have a over polished person. Yep. And you probably need to think about that red flag.
So the last thing that I think before we wrap it up, I think we got to talk about with all of these areas, ask the follow-up questions. Don't just let the person off the hook, let them answer your question, but then say, okay, that shows you're listening. And then your follow-up questions will help reveal more about that person,
Yeah, that's good stuff. That's good information, because I think that sometimes we don't ask enough questions in our relationships because we are afraid that we're going to be viewed as prying or nosy is the stereotype. But if a guy truly loves you or likes you or wants to go further, he's not going to mind any questions that you might have.
Right.
And he'll welcome those questions because he or she has nothing to hide. So I think the follow-up question is really important, to just finding out who that person is, whether or not they're real or fake, and whether or not this person is somebody that you want to commit to long term.
Absolutely.
So don't stop at the one question. Hey, do you see yourself getting married? yes, I see myself getting married. First of all, you violated a rule, right?
Yep.
You didn't ask an open-ended question. So the question is, what do you think about relationships?
What do you think about marriage?
What do you think about marriage? And then once that person answers that question, then you should have a few other questions. And
Why do you feel that way?
don't feel ashamed by asking questions, because ladies and gentlemen, this is your life. So
Yep.
you need to ask the questions that you need to ask to make sure that the person is compatible for you.
Exactly. And
All
the
right.
one thing I will say that differs from us as lawyers, sometimes we know when to stop questioning. In your relationships, don't stop questioning so that you get the information that you need to reveal who that person really is.
There you go. There you go. So those are the tips, lawyer tips, that I hope will, now we have a special set of skills, a particular set of skills, but now you have those particular set of skills that you can spot fakes through your questioning, whether it's before your relationship or even if you are in a relationship right now. You can use the same techniques and tips that we use as lawyers to spot fakes in our witnesses, and you can use that to spot them in your relationships. So there you have it. If you like this podcast and it blessed you and it gave you some good information, what we're going to need you to do is to help us get positive content out like this. Hit the subscribe button, like, follow, and share us on all the podcast platforms that you can find, and make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. And we love you guys for listening. Thank you, and we'll see you soon. Take care.
See you next time.
See you later. Bye-bye. God first.